TGIF, everyone. Good morning and welcome to Business Morning on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Now let's start off the program with oil prices. Prices softened in early trade on Friday, weighed on by conflicting messages from Russia and Saudi Arabia ahead of the next OPEC Plus policy meeting and a stronger dollar. That meeting is holding on June the 6th. Brent crude futures fell 30 cents to $75.96 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 14 cents at $71.69 a barrel. Benchmarks settled more than $2 per barrel lower on Thursday after Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak played down the prospect of further OPEC Plus production cuts at its meeting in June. And both prices, however, were still poised to post a second week of gains of slightly less than 1%. Russian President Vladimir Putin says that energy prices were approaching economically justified levels, also indicating that there could be no immediate change to the group's production policy. This remark contrasts with comments from the Saudi Arabia Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, the de facto leader of OPEC, warning short sellers to watch out. Some investors interpreted that as a signal OPEC Plus could consider further output cuts. Edible oil now. Malaysian palm oil futures rose on Friday for a third straight day, setting the contract on course for a weekly uptick on strong arrival oil prices and concerns over the impact of El Nino on production next year. The benchmark palm oil contract for August delivery on the Bursa Malaysia Derivatives Exchange gained 14 ringgit, that's about 0.4%, to $790.70 a ton. That was an early trade. Crude palm oil production in Malaysia, which is the world's biggest, second largest producer, could drop between 1 and 3 million tons next year as a result of the El Nino weather pattern. The Malaysian Palm Oil Board had released this, and Malaysia's exports during May the 1st to 25th fell 0.7% from the same week in April. Cargo surveyor Intertech Testing Services also said another cargo surveyor said that exports rose 0.7%, and the ringgit, palm's currency of trade, fell 0.28% against the dollar to its lowest since November, making the commodity cheaper for buyers holding foreign currency. Dalian's most active soy oil contract rose 1.9%, while its palm oil contract gained 2.1%. Soy oil prices on the Chicago Board of Trade were up 0.2%. Palm oil is affected by price movements in related oils as they compete for a share in the global vegetable oils markets. Leaving the oil space, now we'll go to grains. Chicago wheat futures bounced back on Friday, rising almost 1% and set for a weekly gain as severe drought is reducing U.S. winter crop supplies, although expectations of ample production in other key exporting countries limited gains. Corn and soybeans inch higher. The strong dollar was seen as a negative force, but traders remain concerned with the Southern Plains wheat crop. And still looking at that now, the most active wheat contracts on Chicago Board was up 0.9% to $6.09 for half a bushel, and corn was up 0.2% to $5.91 for 3/4 of a bushel. Soybeans gained 0.3% at $13.27 for 1/4 of a bushel. For the week, wheat has gained 0.7%, corn up 6.7%, and soybeans has added 1.5%. The U.S. Department of Agriculture reported weekly yet export sales reduction of 75,200 tons for the U.S. old crop corn in the week ended May the 18th. Net new crop corn sales totaled only 52,100 tons, near the low end of analyst expectations. Weekly export sales of U.S. old crop soybeans were 115,000 tons at the low end of the trade expectation, and new crop sales were below expectations at 1,100 tons. For U.S. wheats, the EU agency reported net reductions of 45,100 tons for old crop exports. Net new crop wheat sales total 245,000 towards the low end of expectation. Now, Ukrainian 2023 spring grain sowing was 97% complete at almost 5.3 million hectares on May the 25th, according to Agriculture Ministry. And then also we do know that India is likely to harvest a record 112.7 million tons of wheat this year. That's according to the Farm Ministry, reiterating its previous estimate of more than 112, despite lower crop yields due to unseasonal rains. However, concerns linger over the implementation of the Black Sea grain deal, which was extended last week. Dozens of ships are unable to reach Ukraine days after a Black Sea grain deal was extended, and the pace of shipment is unlikely to pick up because of slow inspections and other uncertainties. Let's come to Nigeria now. Access Holdings PLC has declared a final dividend of ₦1.30 for every 50 kobo ordinary shares for her clients and customers. The company revealed this at the maiden edition of Access Holdings' annual general meeting scheduled for Lagos. The group chief executive of the company restructured to Holdco, Dr. Herbert Wigwe, says that the investment is a capstone initiative following the $500 million additional Tier 1 capital raised by the bank in 2021 and advances its vision to be the world's most respected African bank.
Having transitioned into a non-operating financial holdings, this is the first AGM of Access Holdings PLC. It's bringing together shareholders on-site and online to do an appraisal of the performance for the year ended December 2022.
Will someone please second this motion?
On the lineup is the review of the 2022 annual reports and accounts, resolutions, as well as elections of executives.
Any opposition? Thank you.
And despite the tough macroeconomic conditions, including inflation at over 20%, the company records a profit before tax of 167.7 billion naira for the year. While total assets grew by 28.2%, the company declares a final dividend of ₦1.30. But that's not all.
We are at ₦1 trillion in terms of assets which are being managed. You will find significant growth as we move into the year because we intend to maximize and leverage off the rest of the bank in terms of getting more and more RSCs to basically sign on with access pensions, and therefore we start to see the benefits of that combination.
Shareholders are also excited with the company's success story in the last financial year. But like Oliver Twist, some stakeholders want more.
See, the small-scale companies in Nigeria, they are working hard. They have the potentials, but the seed funding is difficult for them. And I think if Access Bank can exploit that particular area to give them cheaper funds in order to be able to expand their business and, fund their activities.
And for the future, the group CEO says the company will, among other things, create a globally connected community and ecosystem.
The next 5 years will see us coming out as one of the top 5 banks in the continent, inclusive of the large South African players. But more importantly, people will now start to see an institution that is beginning to have a composite risk rating that may pierce the sovereign ceiling.
Access Holdings PLC says 2022 was a year of unprecedented challenges for the company. But the company insists it will continue to demonstrate commitment and ability to support her customers, clients, and wider stakeholders in the face of the ever-changing economic conditions.
Nigeria should be marking a landmark event today as the Minister of Aviation, Mr. Hadi Sirika, has said that an aircraft belonging to Nigeria Air, which is the proposed national carrier, will arrive in the country today ahead of the commencement of operations. Mr. Sirika said the aircraft will be unveiled in Nigeria's colors, green and white, in fulfillment of all the promises made by the administration, that's the administration of Muhammadu Buhari, in the aviation sector. Well, there are different perspectives to this story. We know the matter is also in court, but let's delve into this with Mr. Lucky George, the Executive Director, African Travel Commission. He joins us here in the studio. Mr. George, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you were active, of course, in the aviation sector, tourism, and all of that. And this is not the first time we're having this conversation on this program. We know the pact with Ethiopian Airline has not been received favorably by a lot of stakeholders in the aviation sector. But let's just start from there and find out if you are among those not happy with the pact with Ethiopian Airline. Why are you not happy? Is this not for the development of the sector?
Let me just make it clear. As far as my position is concerned as the Executive Director of African Travel Commission, my job is to promote the entire African continent as a destination in the third market, and that is in Europe, in America, and other parts of the world. But as a Nigerian, as someone who caught his teeth locally here, it will be the most disservice to this country to pick on your competitors that you are bigger than in every ramification in terms of size, in terms of population, in terms of weight, to invite such a country to come and run your aviation sector. I think it's a calamity.
What about in terms of skills and experience?
There is no doubt that the Ethiopian has this experience, they have the skills. But if you don't train people, if you don't stay on the job, how do you acquire the skills? And if you ask all the aviation stakeholders, the engineers, the pilots, the cabin crew, then the travel agents, the tour operators, and the tourism industry in general, the idea is it's a calamity that is about to befall this country. What? Have we lost our pride?
Is this about pride? Is this just about pride? Because if we have to stoop to conquer, you know, if we have to humble ourselves and feel even though Ethiopia as a country is not, I mean, Nigeria is bigger in size and economic strength, but if they are good in this area, then can we lower our pride for a bit and get them to show us how to handle? Because we've tried national carrier a couple of times and it did not work, you know, so can we lower our pride and get them to show us what they do and then learn and then let's say, okay, we're done, can, you know?
Let me just take you down memory lane for you. We tried it in the 80s with KLM. What did we get? They make sure the airline never get off the ground. It collapsed. Then we tried Virgin Atlantic. What happened? It never worked. You see, you are in the same market with these airlines. And for you to take back your own market from them, whether they are investing in your airline, if they are investing into your airline, they are keeping you down so that you don't grow. And don't forget that Ethiopia Airline has bilateral agreement with one of some of the major routes that we fly to. The US, the UK, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, South Africa. And at the end of the day, this same airline will not be able to go to all these routes because they will tell Ethiopia Airline, you are coming into our country through the back door. You know how these things work under the bilateral agreement. And at the end of the day, this airline will just remain a feeder airline to Ethiopia Airline network. Don't forget that Ethiopia Airline has investment in about 6 other airlines across Africa. You have Sky, which they have about 29%. You have Ethiopian Mozambique Air, which they have about 99%. Then you have the Malawi Air. All these airlines, they just use them as feeders. They bring in passengers from their country into Addis Ababa, which is the main hub of Ethiopia Airlines. And that is what they do. But to me, it's disrespectful to Nigerians for Ethiopia Airlines to go on this course. In as much as we know that the manners and the process that put the proposal on the table, choosing Ethiopia Airlines, was also not being supported by the industry. It was not clear, it was arbitrary, and it was irresponsible, the manner in which it was done. You know what it takes. Aviation goes beyond Naira and Kobo. We pay to service the airports in Dubai, in Qatar, in Addis Ababa, in Nairobi. How much is the ticket? Every Nigerian passenger pay an average of $160 on airport tax. For you, you had paid them to pick you from Lagos to your destination, but they are taxing you for stopping over in their country where they transload you into another aircraft. We develop airports across the world. Why can't we put the money? Look at the issue of...
So what's the issue? Why can't we do it? I know we have personnel, we have captains. I mean, on our program, Sunrise Daily earlier, we had a captain. You know, we have a lot of experienced persons in the aviation industry. We can get the money if we want to acquire equipment, because I know the issue of repatriated fund, at least I think we have laid that to rest, even if it's for a short time. So what do you think is a major obstacle against our Nigeria's national carrier being run by Nigerians?
Let me just say this again. We must be very critical of ourselves. The argument is that Nigerians are very corrupt. We cannot run an airline. Does that mean we're going to elect an Ethiopian to serve as the governor of Lagos State or the president of Nigeria because we are scared, we are afraid of failure? And that is the argument. And let me tell you, in the aviation sector, all the so-called aviation experts, like the members who put themselves together as groups, like we have the Aviation Roundtable in Nigeria, who mostly champion the hiring of foreign partners. They were marketing and sales executives in all these foreign airlines in the past. And at the end of the day, they took money from Nigerians to run local airlines, which they never succeeded. I can mention names, but at the end of the day, they are now working as lobbyists for this foreign airline. What the minister is doing, I've spoken with the president of the Tourism Federation in Nigeria, Mr. Nkwerem Onum. I've just spoken with Susan Akporai, the national president of Association of Nigerian Travel Agencies. They said it's a calamity, it's an embarrassment, and it's a project that should not go off the ground. Because as we speak, we're not even sure where is the office of the Nigerian Air. Where are the so-called, who is the CEO? Has the National Civil Aviation Authority given AOC to this airline? Why is this minister in a hurry? Is it that he just want to have it under his name that he did this before he leaves office? It should be gratified that the incoming administration belongs to the same party like himself. He can reach out to them to say, oh, this idea, don't let it then work on it. These are the things that have made a lot of Nigerians to be so skeptical about this project, that there must be personal attachment. And don't forget, I think the minister tend to use his relationship with the president to twist a lot of things, because this is one project that should not see the light of the day. I, as a Nigerian, I traveled recently to the United Kingdom. I could not afford a regular ticket because the cost of the ticket was so much. You can imagine flying there an economy ticket, and I'm paying 2 million naira. That's after going from Lagos to all those transit, and at the end of the day, you are exhausted. When we can have a national carrier, the market is there.
All right, Mr. Lucky George, this is obviously a lot of questions unanswered at this time, you know, and on top of that is also the issue that the matter is supposed to be in court.
The matter is in court. The last hearing was April 27th.
Yeah, so a lot of questions actually for the minister to answer, but we'll stay on the story here. That's what we can promise you here on Channels Television, and try to get to the bottom of it, why it seems, well, we know that this administration promised to deliver a national carrier, but at what cost? We would stay on that. Thank you so much, Mr. Lucky George, Executive Director, African Travel Commission, for your time this morning.
It's my pleasure.
All right, now, next on today's agenda, we're celebrating Africa Day. That was yesterday with Africa. As part of this year's Africa Day celebration, the United Bank for Africa, PLC, had its 5th edition of the UBA Africa Conversations, and we have it packaged in this report.
Held annually to foster conversations on building a united front on the continent, the UBA Africa Conversations is already a tradition. The chairman of the UBA Group, Tony Elumelu, and other top executives of the bank are in the auditorium for the 5th edition of the program.
UBA is more than a bank. We have a mission to change Africa. We have a mission to change the world. And we believe that once we change Africa, we will indeed change the world.
This year's conversation is centered around innovating for growth in Africa, and it's an all-female panel who are certified professionals in their various fields. Trendsetter and foodpreneur Hilda Bassi and other panelists share ingredients of how they've made good success in their chosen fields.
more. I feel like the older generation read more. And we do this all the time. We say, oh, people are not going to read. You can't put the information in the caption. You need the information in the video, but that's something that needs to change. That's the problem in itself. And we need to read. We need to be ready to look at the letters because there's so much in there that will help us improve our minds. For me, I tell African stories through my prints and my textiles. And there's so much importance to that because the whole world is looking at Africa and they love the creative art, they love our culture. So it's so important that we keep telling our own story. What we need is to focus. We need to leverage the benefit of technology, and we need to constantly remember that nobody is going to provide our solutions for us.
For the Chief Executive Officer of UBA Africa, Abiola Bewa, and the President of Transnational Corporation, Transcorp PLC, Owen Omoja, for the reward for hard work is more work.
I want to tell the girl child out there that the ceiling is broken. It's no longer an excuse. Those excuses of my mother's moments, my grandmother's moment, is the boy child who is not allowing me, is my boss, it's no longer tenable.
It's quite an innovative style of thinking to continue to disrupt yourself when you are number one. And that's what guides us in what we do. So first of all, in our existing sector, we continue to expand, deepen, exploit, optimize our existing investment.
The bank says it remains at the forefront of leading conversations that will lead to positive change on the continent, while helping to unlock the vast opportunities waiting to be tapped from Africa.
So today is May the 26th. Tomorrow is May the 27th. Sounds familiar, right? That's Children's Day. So we want to discuss children getting involved in finances and investment. As they celebrate their day tomorrow, we have to also let them see the reality of a time, which is you have to know how to make money and you have to know how to manage money. So that's why we're discussing now financial literacy, getting the children involved with Abigail Otomi, business head, asset management of Norrin Berger, joins us from our Abuja studio. Abigail, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I was hoping Abigail would be a child so we can discuss how much the child knows about finances, financial literacy and all of that. But it's all good. We're all children at one point in time. And you work a lot with children, I believe. So tell us now, from your observation and interaction, how financially literate are children? At what age would it be appropriate to get them involved in such conversations?
Thank you very much. In Nigeria, children are quite literate, but we think that there's still a lot more work to do, of course, to overall support the financial literacy segment of the National Financial Strategy, Inclusion Strategy. For children, you could start to introduce them to finances and money management as early as when they are toddlers through simple basic steps that keeps them interested, in the project or program over time. Children are very intelligent people. They pick a lot. So the actions of parents, guardians would do a lot more in their life and their financial trajectory as well. Of course, it is always good to start early. The early start principle continues to help people do a lot more than they could have achieved in life. So for children, if you set them on the right path, you would be empowering them to create a lifestyle of independence that would be very much needed across the curve in the near term or in the long term as well. So we see a lot of interest when it comes to money. I'm very sure if you've related with, teenagers or even the very, very young adults as well, you will find that they are very interested in money. They want to make money. They would want to do a lot so early. And of course, channeling that positively would help them, create value for themselves and for the Nigerian economy as a whole.
Yeah, but it seems to be a very thin balance in getting them interested in money and, managing it as a distraction so it doesn't become a distraction to them. Because if they can, for instance, get to the end which is money at a very young age, then what's the essence of education and going through all that long route before you get back to where you're supposed to make money? So that's, I think, is also another aspect which is important to manage even as you introduce them to finances.
Very true. And that's why it's always important to harness those opportunities and teach them the right way. Make it a positive outcome rather than a negative outcome. It's just like sex education. Of course, there's a time where you need to introduce it, but how you do that and how you channel the energy determines the outcome, as it were. So, whilst you do not want to distract children from education, you need to get them to appreciate wealth creation early, such that when they get to the stage where they become active in terms of owning a business, working, and all of that, they are able to utilize their earnings better. They are able to start early to know what savings means, what investment means, what increase in value of wealth is, and of course, to a large extent, you can create wealthy Nigerians and even contribute to the reduction in poverty rate for Nigeria as a whole.
Yeah, so at this rate, it does sound like every parent, or not every parent, but the new trend seems to be you help your child to discover his or her potential early. If the person, for instance, has an arts talent, you know, one of the arts. So you help them discover that early, and then you show them how to groom that talent, and eventually, you know, they now are able to make money from that talent. So, as you said earlier, a lot of young people at this time are not patient enough to get under employment because they feel, I've got the talent, I just need to make my talents, you know, provide money for me. So that need or necessity of learning management, learning how to run a business, for instance, under a leadership, seems to be one other thing that we're taking out of this fast-track system.
Yes, and I think it's a welcome development. We do not all have to work. In the mid-era or in the early 20s, we saw everybody, you know, seeking employment. So it became a situation where once you get out of school, if you go and find a job, your earning stream is largely impaired. You know, you don't get enough to take care of yourself at that age, right? So we've moved to the era where you're training children and young adults that you can do a lot more with education. You don't need to only stick to the white-collar jobs. You could become an entrepreneur, and the entrepreneurial development, you know, structure is one area that the Financial Inclusion Committee and other market participants are very much interested in supporting through several mediums. So if you start early to teach children how to create wealth through several means, using your talent, using your vocation or areas of interest, even learning them, if they're not things that resonate naturally with you, you create a diverse economy that is not reliant on the formal sector, that is not reliant on the government for welfare and upkeep, and then you create a balanced economy that creates value across the value chain. We need to move to the era where the informal sector in the country competes significantly with the formal sector. So you don't have to be in office or in a job to earn money. Money can be earned through creating value. And there's so much to do in the economy or in Nigeria, as you can tell. And we need young people to start to fill those gaps and grow into matured adults that would also help create value for younger people across the value chain.
All right, so what would be your message to the children as they celebrate this year's Children's Day?
So my message for children today would be get involved. You're not too young to know what money is, to know how to keep, save, invest money, and also begin to challenge your parents to help you across this journey to ensure that you grow up to be a very comfortable, intelligent, hardworking adult that contributes positively to the growth of the country and, of course, make yourself and your family proud.
All right, thank you so much. Abigail Utomi, Business Head Asset Management with Norrin Berger, joining us this morning. Happy Children's Day to all of us. We're all young at heart.
Yes, happy Children's Day to all the children.
Yeah.
And to you too.
Thank you. All right, now with the new Infinix Note 30 series, Nigerian phone users can go all the way without the challenge of low battery caused by epileptic power supply. The company's global head gave this assurance during the launch of the product in Lagos. The new product, the company says, is groundbreaking in many regards. So we'll tell you that story and a short break, and then we'll talk on the other side.
Infinix is launching the Note 30 series.
With the comment and feedback on the older product, we believe this is the secret that how we can keep ourselves always young. Our users has been changed from Gen X to Gen Z. From Nigeria, we have been spread to over 70 countries, especially the emerging market.
The new charging device comes in 5 variants and with groundbreaking new charging innovations in considerations for the Nigerian market, particularly the reverse charging possibility.
The Note 30 series models are the Note 30, the Note 30 Pro. We're also going to have the 5G version, so that's the Note 30 5G, and the Note 30 VIP will also be launched pretty soon. For us, we're excited about this for the Nigerian market because it solves a lot of our power issues. I mean, we have electricity issues, we have power issues, but with a phone like the Note 30, you know that not only do you get fast charging, you also are able to charge other devices and your battery lasts you a very long time. This is not even talking about the other features like the camera and the chipset, but just the basic need of being able to power your life.
It also supports a 15-watt wireless fast charge, a first in its price segment.
So the price of the Infinix Note 30 ranges from 120,000 to 180,000, and that comes, you can get the 120,000 for the Note 30, there's the Note 30i, the Note 30 Pro, the Note 30 VIP. So the price range from 120 to 180,000. And the reason why people should buy this device is because there's one unique feature about this device, and that is the first in its range in Africa to give you the wireless charging pad in a device that comes in that price range.
This launch means the devices are now available for pickup in all Infinix approved retail outlets nationwide.
You're welcome back. Well, can Africa solve the trade problem within Africa by connecting Africa with global trade? And this is what AfCFTA, that's the African Continental Free Trade Area, is supposed to handle. But how far have we gone with that? We still have a lot of supply chain issues. We talked about, for instance, customs in Nigeria and how they are helping in all of this. Well, let's talk about the supply chain and how to boost activities on the AfCFTA platform with Larry Oti now. He is the founder of Send and joins us virtually. Hi, Larry. Good morning.
Hi, Ine. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Yeah. So after we celebrated and all of that, but really, how much activity have we had on that platform from Nigeria? We know Ghana seems to be more active on that, but from Nigeria, how active is the AfCFTA platform?
I mean, so far, in terms of like the activity, on the AfCFTA platform, I mean, on the Nigerian side, I don't think, there's been a lot, but it's not really a consequence of, how well it works or how good it is. I think people are still catching on pretty much. And in the coming months, in the coming years, it's going to definitely pick up more in terms of like folks taking advantage of most of the instruments that have been made available for Africans to trade pretty much.
So the issue of digital innovation to optimize supply chains sometimes just comes across like it's just words put together. How real is it for us?
Oh no, I mean, so I definitely think is an issue, right? Because for one, I think SMEs would really drive the numbers in terms of like intra-African trade. A Nigerian small medium business, knowing that they have a customer, in Botswana, and there's kind of like no friction in making that trade happen. And how digital technology helps with that is with a couple of things. So for one, discovery, right? How are you able to find a buyer or a seller in a country 2-3 borders away from you, in terms of like how you get to move that product from your country to that final customer across maybe say 2-3 countries in your region and outside your region. How are you able to do that like in a cost effective way? And I think technology like helps with that, and it's part of the things we're working at Ascend. Businesses, small, medium businesses who are not used to the complex nature of the supply chain are able to get like on a single platform and take care of like the entire process, just like going through a checklist of what they need to do to get stuff across borders without getting lost in all the regulatory hassles. Also, I think the regulatory agencies, across board, in different countries, also need to keep increasingly, adopting technology, right, and getting rid of, the extra steps that are not like really needed at the process level. The goal is to keep it like super simple, so that it's easy to adopt, it's easy to implement, and everyone is on the same page. And I actually think the AfCFTA Secretariat has done like a nice job, in terms of putting together like the rules of origin based on the instruments of ratification that the member countries have submitted.
All right, Larry, just briefly now, because we're out of time. Recently, World Bank ranked Nigeria's customs low. How much is that deterring activities on the AfCFTA platform?
I mean, I wouldn't so much say deterring. I think there's room to grow. I mean, good thing actually, like this year, customs, I think from a couple of years ago, so customs kind of like had an improvement about 20%. And customs was like the almost single contributor to like the growth, of Nigeria performance in like logistics, on the World Bank Index, right? So I think there's a lot of, I mean, they're doing like an okay job. There's more to do. If you ask me, I'll say a couple of things that like need to be taken care of. I mean, infrastructure for one, I mean, which might not necessarily 100% be in the purview of customs. Then there are a couple of low-hanging fruits that I think, customs and other regulatory agencies, can make happen like really quick, so things like process, taking away like whatever toll gates exists. And also I think these agencies are like need to work with like a KPI or like a key metric, not just necessarily for measurement purposes for external bodies, but in the context of how it affects our throughput as a country in terms of like what comes in and what goes out, and the turnaround time around all that.
All right, Larry, obviously it looks like we might have to bring you up on the program some other time when we have more time to talk about some of those things that you've mentioned. But Larry Oti, founder of SEN, thank you so much for your views this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's move over to the markets now with Will Ibong. Hi, Will.
Hi. Good morning, Nini.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Great.
You see the markets, especially NTB results that we got for Wednesday. What struck me was the stop rates. Very low. And despite the interest rate hikes we've been seeing from the central bank,
don't worry, we'll catch up with that.
It's not encouraging. We saw proceedings in the fixed income market, especially the bond market, were bullish. Yields keep dropping as average yield declined by 4 basis points to 13.9%. Now, also in the treasury bills secondary market, we saw bullish sentiments there. Yields are dropping as the average yield contracted by 4 basis points to 6.8%. But we're going to bring in Chuka Nwachukwu, who is the head asset and liability management, UBA, to give us the background, a bit of an insight as to what's going on there. Good morning, Chuka. It's good to have you. Can you hear me, Chuka? So we're just going to be looking at what happened. We're going to flip quickly to while we wait for Chuka to the equities market. What happened yesterday? We saw the equities dropping 0.2% yesterday to 52,821 points. The first negative performance for the week after 3 consecutive days of gains. Market cap is at the 28 trillion naira mark, inching very closely. We're seeing that there, no doubt now, we're probably going to hit 53,000 and the 29K level, 29 trillion naira level very, very soon. Let's look at the activity charts. We see volume, we saw a lower volume compared to what we had on Wednesday, while value surged to 9.18%, and deals 5,879. The negative performance we saw was a drop in corn oil, Girigu, and some other, tier 2 and tier 1 banks that brought the market down yesterday. Unilever was also down. We saw the banking sector down yesterday. Consumer goods, Unilever dropped that massively. Industrial goods, we saw that going down. Insurance as well. The only gainer was oil and gas, because Total Energies was able to flip what happened at Dover was brought that down, but Total Energies was able to turn that around. Now let's look at the top trades for yesterday. We see UBA driving, the top trades in yesterday's market session. 86.17 million units of its shares traded yesterday. AfCFTA followed closely with 67.39 million units, and we saw Zenith Bank 39.4 million units of shares traded. But I think we have Chuka now. Good morning, Chuka. Are you there? Okay, so we're just going to move on. I think we have Chuka. While we look at that, we're going to look at the top trades. Now, the NASD market was unchanged yesterday from what they closed with on Wednesday, 723.26. That's the index. That's what it's at. Still at the 1 trillion naira mark, where we saw lower volume traded, 51,910 units sold, valued at 245.56 million naira, and all in 7 deals. We're seeing not so much transactions going on in the NASD market, especially with the sell-offs we saw in some stocks, and we're wondering what's going on there. But we'll have an analyst soon to probably give us some insights, maybe some time next week. Now we'll look at what next. That's it for the markets, Ini. That's what we have for the markets.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll have more markets tomorrow for capital markets.
Yes, definitely. And we're looking at the outlook next week and seeing that maybe market projections are that maybe there's going to be a correction. Maybe we're in a bull trap, and probably we're going to come back, to correct and maybe dropping below that. But I'm hoping it's not going to happen that way.
Well, Laddie is hoping for something else as he walks in now to take over for crypto. Laddie, I don't know what you're hoping for, but I know your market is not looking good.
Yeah, it's definitely not looking good. But yeah, it's the global market, not my market at this point. 49 points. That's what we're seeing for the sentiment in the market now. Moving away from greed. We've been in greed most of the first quarter of this year, but now we've headed into neutral. Hopefully we don't see extreme fear at some point. Let's look at the top cryptocurrencies we track. We see Bitcoin there having a bounce up 0.30%, $26,353,000. Did lose that 26.3 level. Ethereum, $1,804, up 1.01%. So we're seeing some life back in the market after the sell-offs we saw yesterday. Let's bring in Gilbert Jokpatan, our financial market analyst. Hello, Gilbert. Hello, Gilbert. All right, we'll try and get Gilbert back again. BNB, crucial $300 level, getting really close to that level, $302, down 0.88%. Following most of the top altcoins that we track, Cardano, 35 cents, down 1.16%. Big drop this morning, even though we're seeing Bitcoin having that bounce there. XRP, 46 cents, down 1.95%, almost 2%, even though they're scoring points with the SEC at this point. Still, all eyes, investors watching the case between XRP and the SEC in the US. Is XRP a security or not? That is the question, at this point. Let's look at the top gainers this morning. We see HIX topping the counter, 5.20% at 27 cents. I think we have Gilbert now Hello, Gilbert. All right, still trying to get Gilbert. IOTA, 19 cents, up 4.35%. And we see CSPR, Casper Network, 4 cents, up 2.77%. So we're seeing NVIDIA there had a big jump on the, that's in the US markets, jumped about 20-something percent there. And we've seen AI coins pumping in the crypto. Let's bring Gilbert now. Gilbert, you might have to unmute yourself. Hello, Gilbert.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Gilbert. Great to have you. So, yeah, we did get that big jump. NVIDIA jumped over 20%. That's on the US markets there. And now we're seeing AI coins right here in the crypto space also having a jump. Is this related?
Oh, yes. You know, the AI boom is looking extremely pricey. And as investors also look to take advantage of these trends, sentiment also is heavily attached to it. You know, NVIDIA on its own is serving several companies as well with their design. And they just reported their earning. They came out with a very strong earning. At the same time, their market capitalization has more than doubled. What was seated last year at over about 158 billion is now worth over 900 billion dollar, nearly a trillion. It's near $1 trillion right now, and there is more demand as well for the chip. And so this just have to reflect and have a spillover also on the cryptocurrency market, as you could see with AI crypto tokens also doing extremely well as well with the entire sentiment which is around the AI boom right now.
In that AI trend also playing out in the crypto market now, but it's been a topsy-turvy week for Bitcoin this week. What are you expecting next week? Are we going to see a more decisive jump from Bitcoin next week?
Okay, right now the market is looking very dicey. Bitcoin price action is in a fly, sink, or swim position despite the GDP data coming out. You know, and the GDP data came out strong. You know, investors are wrestling with a mixed reaction with macro uncertainties in their mind. And this is because of the ongoing US debt ceiling negotiation taking place. A US Republican House lawmaker has already reported progress in discussion with the House, but whether the House can reach an agreement on time remains quite uncertain. So right now, the debt ceiling is what is really weighing right now on Bitcoin price. So personally, I have to look at the debt ceiling negotiation. Once they can reach an agreement, we will know whether Bitcoin is going to sink, swim, or fly.
Imagine they don't agree. Talking about the U.S. debt ceiling, they don't get it raised. What happens next?
I think we are going to sink.
Sink.
Meanwhile,
so this cannot be bullish in any way
yes,
for Bitcoin.
No, it can't be bullish if we don't reach a negotiation. I don't see us getting bullish because we know what the Fed will do afterwards. We may just see where interest rates, because we are expecting more of where interest rates will start becoming low. But if this is the case, I think it's the best way the Fed will have to respond is to increase interest rates, keep increasing it. And this will have a way of keeping the economy up. Technically, it's more of a manipulative way to keep the economy up. Meanwhile, inflation will still soar anyway. So except they could reach an agreement, I think this is not healthy for Bitcoin price.
All right, and we did see a couple of addresses that are holding Bitcoin at this point. We've seen some increase, you know, with those addresses, but you know, some of these altcoins. I take, for instance, the meme coin Shiba. I did see that headline this morning that Shiba Inu holders, most of those wallets are in big losses right now. How are you seeing the movement with Bitcoin?
Okay, Bitcoin has a good news on its own, even though this does not involve price. The good news is a report that came from Glassnode that 1 million persons now hold one whole Bitcoin. And this is a significant threshold for the network. To me, the interesting thing it's about this trend is that this whole coin has begun accumulating since mid 2021 with no reversal in their accumulation, and it accelerated in 2022, which is last year. And Glasshold data still show that these whole coiners are still adding some extra Bitcoin to their wallet. Personally, I think we will see this trend continue for probably the next 10 years, as bad news from the banking system will benefit Bitcoin with stable currencies as an alternative. And we are going to see large price action volume, which will lead to hyper Bitcoinization. But for the meme coin, it's normal after meme have soared very highly. It's very typical for you to see a downside. Like the rule in playing the meme game, you don't risk more than what you could afford to pay for a comedy show. It's a joke, at the end of the day. But there is a strategy to investing in meme coin.
Yeah, with those jokes, making or printing millionaires at this point. But let's look at the relationship now between, holding one Bitcoin and price action, because obviously there was a time it was easier to have one Bitcoin, probably when Bitcoin was less than, say, $700 per coin. But it looks like as it gets more expensive, it's going to be even harder to own one Bitcoin. And everyone expects that Bitcoin is going to get more expensive, in the future. So it looks like it's going to get really hard owning one Bitcoin. What do you think?
Okay, first of all, I would like to say if you are holding 0.1 Bitcoin or one Bitcoin since 2021, you will still be holding one Bitcoin. And most persons should always stay in the game. Don't let price action throw you out of the game. Holding one Bitcoin right now is a status tree symbol. But as the years go by, there is an unlimited demand for a limited amount of Bitcoin. As the days go by, it will be more difficult to attain just one Bitcoin. And so if there is anything those who are really Bitcoiners always do is they stay in the game. It's really important one stay in the game. Right now, it's a status tree symbol. The time is going to come, it's going to be a very difficult feat to attain.
All right, very interesting. We'll see how it all plays out next week. Thank you so much, Gilbert Drupata, financial market analyst, and enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, let's look at the top losers now. Friday, so we see Little Dow, that's topping the counter there, down 4.02%, $1.95. Liquid staking platform there, that's leading the losers counter today. So, I don't know about you, but as he said, owning one Bitcoin is separating the boys
from the men.
The men at this point.
All right. Noted. Thank you so much, Ladi. Right. I think you'll be on Capital Market tomorrow?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you then. So that's it on the program. Thank God it's Friday. So you have the weekend to rest and take some time off work. I'll try to do a bit of that also. But do remember to join Ladi Williams tomorrow, 7 p.m. Capital Market will give you a summary of all that has been reported and much more on the markets globally. At 1:30, Willie Bong will be back here to give you Business Incorporated. I'm Minnie John McCoy. Have a great weekend. Get ready for inauguration. We're having a new president on Monday.